Welcome back to Up Close. On Tuesday, a new book goes public that just maybe will shine a new and profound light on fighting one of the medical and mental maladies of our time. We're talking about loneliness. What, you might ask? All the social media we have and loneliness is rampant? Yep, that's the truth. It really is. But you don't have to hear it from me. The amazing Dr. Ruth Westheimer, who led a revolution over honesty in sex, is now tackling honesty about loneliness. It was her last project, despite her 96 years and her suffering a stroke. She wrote a book in the past year, and she died just after she finished it less than 2 months ago. One of the people helping her write the book, Allison Gilbert, a longtime journalist. She joined me on the Up Close set. You were with the New York Times doing a story about her and what she wanted to do for the state of New York.
Yes,
right?
She was on a quest in the summer of 2023 and before to be appointed New York State's ambassador to loneliness.
By the governor.
By the governor.
And she made it known she wanted this job.
She wanted it, which is very unusual. This is very Dr. Ruth.
Yeah.
She had chutzpah in spades. You don't normally go knocking on the governor's door being asked
appoint
me. But this is Dr. Ruth, and she knew she had something to bring to the table. She had experienced loneliness throughout her entire life, and she knew she could help.
Because when she was a Holocaust survivor and her family put her on a bus for young people in Germany, all the way to Switzerland.
Yes,
and she lived there for a while.
Yes.
She was heartbroken and lonely because she never saw her family again.
She was an orphan.
Yeah.
From the age of 10 and a half on, she never saw her parents again. She never saw her grandparents again. So she went through the rest of her life piecing back family by choice,
86.
Selecting friends to fill that gap. It was a remarkable journey.
And so 85 years later, 85 years later, she meets you.
Yes.
And you do this story for the New York Times.
The luckiest journalist on earth to get that assignment.
She loves the story. I thought it was a brilliant story you wrote on her and about loneliness and how it is the next step, you know, about learning about sex. That's what she was, and now all of a sudden you're lonely. So it's all connected to being a better human and living life.
Relationships, right? Bonds.
And so she says, I want you to do my book. Help me write this book.
Well, it's funny, only after the story published. So she was happy with how the story went, apparently. And we just doubled down on our beginning of a relationship. We were really at an arm's length during the reporting, as most reporters and subjects are. Right. I tried to maintain my composure. I'm not a celebrity correspondent. So when I met her, I was in a bit of awe of her, but I was on an assignment, so I had to interview her and kind of keep that formal distance. But once this story came out in November of 2023, and once she had the appointment, then there was the question was, what am I going to do with this position? I am 95. There's so much that I can offer. And it was in those conversations that this idea for the book bubbled up.
Hey, I'm going to jump ahead here, because you spent a year doing this. And,
less than a year.
And the book, but the book, she died in early summer.
Yes.
The book was getting published.
Yes.
Now it's being published, and you were in this 1.5-year cycle with her, and you weren't friends with her before, and you were close comrades after that. What an experience for you. Before we get into the weeds of this, what an amazing experience. You were just so close to her and into the deepest parts of her psyche.
Listen, like most New Yorkers, I grew up listening to Dr. Ruth as a fan before I was a collaborator. I was a teenager listening to Sexually Speaking on my radio in my bedroom, so low that my mother wouldn't hear because it seemed so naughty and the words were so dirty. And so she was in my world my entire life, but I never met her. And then I met her, and she has this power to make you feel seen. Her secret sauce was her ability to connect, to look at you and make you feel valued, like you belong. The best question she would always ask me that I will never forget that made me feel so special at the end of every visit. When will I see you again? And in that one question,
yes, we can.
In that one
her
question,
life is in that question.
In that one question, you are communicating to another human being that they are important enough to schedule time. It's not just, okay, see you later. That is, if there was one lesson from the joy of connections that I would love people to take away, ask your friend, ask your relative, ask your coworker, when can I see you again? And then you know what? Get out your calendars and make that date.
It's so her too. When I think of that, I think of the fact that she was a Holocaust survivor and she came this close to not being.
Yeah.
Her parents died. She never saw her grandmother again. All this, and so you hang on to that.
Yeah.
And it becomes more important than ever.
But what's so interesting, if you ask Dr. Ruth about her childhood, the years prior to what we're just describing, she would say she had the best 10 years any girl could have. She had an idyllic childhood. And from that, which is the power of parenting, right? The power of growing up in a nurturing community, the power of all of us to take care of our neighbors, she felt that she had what she needed to move forward.
So this book is if we came up with a quick answer for what is the purpose of the book, what would you say?
It is part biography of stories of Dr. Ruth you've never heard, but with the goal of helping you make deeper, richer, and maintain better, more fulfilling relationships like she did.
And a reminder, my honor to host the discussion about Dr. Ruth's new book with Allison Gilbert and Pierre Lehu this Wednesday, 7 p.m. at the New York Library in Midtown Manhattan. And we'll be right back.